So Crip has various videos on how good is X card. Well, I'd like to make my own video on how good is Warlock basic deck. This deck is what you get when you start the game. There's no added cards. It's just the classic deck that you get when you play against the Innkeeper. I'm going to run through the cards really quick and talk about their merit. Click here if you want to skip the talking. Also, here's a link to one of Crip's video if you want to skip Areno the Crip Areno as well. And I know you do, Internet. So let's just quickly go through all the cards in this deck. There's 2 of each of the following. 2 Voidwalkers, Succubuses, Drain Lives, Shadowbolts, Hellfire, Murloc Raider, Voodoo Doctor, Cobalt Geomancer, River Crocolisk, Wolf Rider, Chillwind Yeti, Ogre Magi, Darkscale Healer, Reckless Rocketeer, and War Golem. The thing about this deck is that you cannot rush people down, and you should not try. This is actually a late game deck. You want to take advantage of the War Golems and the Reckless Rocketeers. That's generally how you're going to end games because they do tons of damage if you just hit face with them. You want to save your spell damage cards and combo with minion damage or other forms of damage like Hellfire and Drain Life, which can be used to the face if you wanted to. But generally, those cards are going to be used to take care of minions so that your minions can hit face. The Voidwalker is there to make the game last longer. The Succubus is there to basically never be played. It's not a very good card. Shadowbolt is great at getting rid of minions for a low mana cost, especially if you combo with spell damage minions that you may already have on the board by that point. Murloc Raider is just an early game power play that forces your opponent to react. If you combo that with a Voidwalker, it can actually do quite a bit of damage if it stays up. Of course, it is trash late game. It's kind of trash early game too, but whatever. You can make it work. Voodoo Doctors should be tossed early game, but they're pretty good late game actually. They whether they heal you or minions, they get a lot of use. Healing 2 health plus getting a 2/1 on the board is pretty good for a single card. The River Crocolisk is just there for early game pressure, but it's pretty useless otherwise. Late game, I'll generally favor a Succubus over the River Crocolisk because 2 damage late game is just not very good. And by late game, I'm probably willing to lose some cards, whereas early game, I want to have them in hand so that I can react to whatever my opponent's doing. Late game, I just want to go face with as much damage as possible. Ogre Magi is actually a pretty good 4-drop because it may as well have a taunt. It doesn't actually have one. People can go through it if they want, but spell damage is a very dangerous thing to give your opponents, and people generally do their best to try to take it out as quickly as possible. So really it's a 4/4 with taunt and spell damage, which is pretty good for 4 mana. The Chillwind is just there. Darkscale Healer is there to heal up your minions. It's pretty good if you combo with minions that are already on the board. Otherwise, it's a pretty crappy card. Wolf Rider and Reckless Rocketeer are spectacular for hitting your opponent's face. If your opponent doesn't have a taunt, then these things will just screw them up royally. However, if you have to use your Rocketeers on minions, then you're generally going to lose the game because you're not going to have enough damage to kill him. Which brings us to our saving grace. If you can get a War Golem or 2 out there, then that's actually really hard to deal with unless they have a big game hunter. War Golem is actually one of the best commons if your opponent doesn't have a direct answer to it. Actually, it's a basic. Sorry, there's no commons in this deck. It's all basic. Anyway, let's get into the gameplay. So I'm heading into play mode here. And I'm just going to go ahead and go back to my basic decks. As you can see, I have 0 wins on Warlock because I never play Warlock Constructed ever. I don't like the class. I don't even have a custom deck for it. That's how much I dislike the class. I just think it's cancer. Should not be played by anybody. Mainly because its hero power is OP. That's what I'm going to rely on to try to win this game. The fact that the Warlock hero power is OP because in this game, card draw is king. Card draw increases your probability of winning the game significantly. Because the more cards in your hands, the higher the probability there is that you will have an answer to whatever your opponent plays. Now, none of these cards are useful to me, which is why I'm going to toss all of them. They're all reactionary cards. They're high mana cards, some of them, so I don't want any of them in my hand. Now, this is pretty good. A Voidwalker stalls the game out. I'm probably going to end up playing Voidwalker and then just Hero Power next turn because this deck does have some large minions like War Golem. It has those 5 damage taunts, meaning that if I can make it to late game, I should be able to win this. And it looks like I'm not playing that Voidwalker because I just give him a free card if I do that. I have no reason to do that. I can just wait here. He can do 1 damage to me. I don't really care. So now, the ball's in his court. It doesn't look like he has any options because I didn't play anything. He needed me to play something in order for him to be able to play anything, and I didn't play anything. So we're both at an impasse here. And I might coin out the Wolf Rider and just take it out so that I can shut down his card draw. Or I might Hero Power here. There's no other option. But I don't really want to coin out the Wolf Rider because then I can't play the Chill Wind the turn after. And for a 4 damage minion against a priest is pretty hard to deal with on turn 4. So I might coin that out. We'll see what he plays. And at this point, I think I want to use the Wolf Rider because if I play the Chill Wind, he can trade it out and get +3 health on the Northshire, which I don't really want him to do, so I'm just going to go ahead and trade it out. I still have the coin. Next turn, I have a lot of plays, meaning that whatever he plays, I'm basically really prepared for it. And I might gamble here with the Succubus. I do have a decent amount of cards that I'm fine with losing, like, say, the Coin, the Voidwalker, the Kobold. And if I get a good loss, then it works out very well in my favor, but again, 4-5 is pretty hard to deal with. We're in the same situation we were before, but at this point, I don't want to slow the game down anymore. I want to make him react. Let's see what he does here. And the turn after, I can coin Kobold Hellfire for 4 damage to all his minions. I do lose 2.5 cards in exchange for killing 2.5 of his cards. And now we have the Murloc Raider. I think I do want a Succubus here because there's a lot of junk in my hand, and I'm fine with losing it. Let's see if I can RNG something good here and just take out his Northshire Cleric, I think. Because if I take that out, then that's both down. That's his card draw gone. And remember, this game is about card draw. That's what wins games. By having more cards than your opponents, you increase the probability of being able to deal with whatever he plays. And since you still have more cards, you should be able to then just spam cards and end up winning the game because he doesn't have any answers to whatever it is you're playing. So at this point, he's in a tricky situation. There's not much he can do here. He can, I mean, really, he needs a Light Bomb, right? That's his best option, I think. He's got to try to clear my board and keep his minion up, because beyond it, he loses both of those cultists, he loses both his card draw minions, and he doesn't have a lot of ways to win beyond that point. Notice that next turn, I can play the Golem out. I can coin it out. He can, considering he's a priest and he's not playing a lot of minions, I assume he has a lot of spells in hand, so he can just use his Shadow Word Pain to kill it, or Shadow Word Death, rather. But beyond that point, I'm now on turn 7, which means I can play my second War Golem, and I'm fine with him killing the first one, so long as he doesn't have a second Shadow Word Death. He does Light Bomb, which clears the board. It gets rid of his annoying minions, and now I think the plan is what I just discussed. I don't see any better option. I don't need to use the Voodoo Doctor. I don't want to play the Ogre Golem. I try to save my spell damage minions for when I have spell damage in hand, because now if I want to, I can do potentially 4 damage with a Drain Life if I have both of those spell damage minions out on the board. And there's the Shadow Word Death. That's to be expected. Again, he had a lot of spells. He's not playing anything. And I was wrong. I guess he still had a Dark Cultist in hand. I thought he played both. And again, we just play the War Golem here because unless he has a Shadow Word Death, then he is in some trouble right now. And even if he can deal with this, I have a lot of cards that can handle whatever it is he plays. Again, I've got that spell damage in hand, which means that Drain Life is essentially a deal 4 damage. I wish it also buffed how much it heals, but it does not. It still heals for 2 damage even if you have spell damage, which I suppose makes sense because it's a heal, not a damage. But then again, when you use things like Arcanine, or I don't know how you pronounce it, but when you use that card, it does increase how much damage it does if you have Velen or some shit. I do thank him for the heal. That's very nice of him. It heals my 7-7 up to 7-7. It's quite nice. And I do want to just go and use my Voodoo Doctor here. I'm not going to tap because I'm getting kind of low and I don't want him to get some sort of strange rush that I can't deal with. And he's already demonstrated to me that he does not have a Shadow Word Death. So I'm going to try to make as much use of this Golem as I can. I am worried about the Light Bomb. So I don't know if I want to use my 4-5 to kill his 4-4, because then that puts me in the Light Bomb range. I do have the option to Ogre Magi, Kobold, Drain Life for 4, but again, that puts me into Light Bomb range. If he has a second one, he just wipes my board, and then I'm in some trouble because I will have given up this card advantage that I've gained as a result of killing his card draw minions, yet me having that hero power which draws me cards. So instead, I decide to just get rid of the 2-1, save myself from AoE. This is a play against AoE. That's why those 2-4-5s, that's why I traded out the 2-1. This is a safe play against AoE. It does not use all my mana, but I do have 15 damage on the board. I have that Drain Life, which I can use to the face to do 4 damage. I have a Hellfire, which can do 5 damage. And now I have a Reckless Rocketeer. I have lethal in 2 turns, almost guaranteed. It's very hard for him to survive this, so I don't really care about the 7-7 anymore. I'm just going face. Let's see how much he can heal up. But I do have 5 damage if he doesn't have a taunt, plus 4 or 5 damage depending on how many of those spell damage minions he kills. So what he can do here, if he doesn't have a Light Bomb, is he can kill one of the 4-5s, maybe take out the 4-4 somehow. That leaves me a 4 damage Hellfire, plus a 5 damage charge, plus the 6 damage on the board, and now he's up to 15. You're still dead, buddy. It doesn't matter. I set up for lethal last turn. Warlock, basic deck OP. If he doesn't have a taunt, you just lost this game. I'm so sorry. Come on. I just want to end the game. Come on, end your turn. You're not playing anything else. Don't tease me. Come on, you're teasing me with the win. Just give me the win. I want to go on to my next game. You're teasing me. And he does pull out a Shadow Word Pain, because why not? I'm not sure what he was saving for. He silences spell damage, takes out one of the 4-5s. I don't care. I still have 8 damage on board. I have 8 damage in hand. That's 16 damage, baby. I just did that math all in my head. And I do throw out the threaten because he made me wait for the win. It's very rude of him, just by the way. And now I clear his board. When you win with basic deck against your opponent, you do want to clear his board, show him that just how much better than him you are. So there you go. 1 out of 1 wins, 100% win rate. Basic Warlock deck OP, net deck that, you sheeple.